Hey, everybody! Alright. Another week, another podcast. Yeah. It's going to be a pretty short one this week. Not really too much going on. But yeah, this has been a pretty good week. Thought I'd play this pretty cool song. Like, fucking hear it on Doc Disrespect, and it's a friggin' just badass song when he uses it for his clips on YouTube. For people that don't know, show this guy a bit of love and support. Is from best track, Stamina. Stamina's the song, so it's a pretty freaking badass, upbeat song. But yes, new week, and not really been a lot of news this week. Hasn't really been. Well, we do have a Muggle of the Week this week, though. It's pretty fucking interesting. been a very, very, very interesting sort of Muggle this week. Now, for people, again, I like to explain sort of what the Muggle of the Week is. Muggle of the Week, we came up with because of Randy Pitchford and his whole calling his employees Muggles. So now we have a Muggle of the Week every week. So we, thanks to Randy Pitchford, and he was also our first Muggle of the Week. So we call, the Muggle is pretty much someone that's, or a company that's in the gaming sort of world that's sort of had a big fuck up this week and done something completely stupid. And we have our own sort of week of internet bullying for that person or company. So this week it's gonna have to be the Google Stadia this week, I'm afraid. Oh boy, who didn't see this fucking coming? My God. Let's just bring up the first article I have about it. Like, I'll go briefly into what we talked about when they first announced it. Now, I said back then that I didn't see this going to be working to how they were saying it was going to work. It wasn't going to be this big, huge fucking, like, advancement in any sort of like gaming stream service. Like, at the moment, like, internet, especially in countries like ours and, well, my own that I live in Australia and some other countries don't have decent internet. Don't. And when it comes to specifically this, they've it's quite funny. Pretty much when it came out to launch, it was struggling to get stream at 60 frames a second and 4K. Hell, it was even apparently struggling to do 1080p at 60 frames, and this is not it's not a good sign for this platform to be like this. It's kind of gone to shit, really. I did look at some of the pricing as well, especially for here, and for something like this that, as I said from the start when it came to the Stadia, if they're going to make it cheap, if they're going to make it affordable, right, a lot of more people would probably be a little bit more forgiving with maybe the frame, even though you shouldn't have fucking expressed that the frame rate was going to be 60 or even above and be running at 4K. You shouldn't have advertised it as that, because it was never going to be the case. And they really dropped the ball on this one, seeing as though that they really didn't think this one through, like, at all, which kind of made me laugh a little bit. But as I said, if it was cheap and affordable, like really cheap, like at the moment, like, you can buy like a normal cast for about $100 bucks. So, like, if you bought this and spent maybe $150 towards $200, like, it would be all right. Like, it'd be. And you said, oh, well, in certain countries you won't be able to get that specific frame rate or quality of video games, but you know, but it's still pretty decent for the price. I think a lot of people probably would sit there and look at it and go, oh, well, I guess, you know, at a cheap price, streaming it and stuff like that, you know, it's an alright thing to use, especially people that want to play more up-to-date and modern games and can't. But this was dropping the ball, and this was dropping the ball time. Like, big time that dropped the ball. It's not... But the thing is, though, as a whole, it's not a bad idea. It's still a good idea, but again, it was the original promising that it came out about Stadia, about again running at 4K, 60 frames a second, which definitely wasn't the case. And you look at stuff like and the price. The price was another big point as well. It was a little bit too pricey for the system that you were paying for. As I said, look, when it comes to the Google Stadia, they're still going to make some sort of revenue selling the third-party games on their store. Personally, I think it's still, you know, like it's not going to be a huge waste of money if you charge a lot cheaper price. I think I checked up. I think it was some of the local stores. I think it was about $300 for the Stadia, which I thought was a little steep. Especially for a service that you're going to be paying extra for on top for a lot of their video games and stuff like that, playing online and that, because you still have to pay an online subscription service. Which personally, for me, I think is probably, it's a bit of a mixed bag. That like you look at stuff like the PlayStation, like when the PlayStation turned around and was like, oh well, Xbox still makes a lot of money for having their been paying for their service and stuff like that, you know, and we should probably ask people to pay for our service if they want to play online. Which I personally don't like that. Granted though, like free to play games like Fortnite and stuff like that, they have an online element. You don't need to have PlayStation Plus, which is good. Unlike Xbox, where if you do play a free to play game, you do need an Xbox, which I find to be a little wrong. It's a free-to-play game. You should be able to play it without having Xbox. Should be just able to. But then again, I guess it's up to what Stadia wants to do with that front. But, yeah, so apparently if you buy the specific version of the Stadia, you will get to apparently keep your fucking game. Which you should be... Look, honestly, if you buy the game, you should be able to keep it. That's just flat out how I see it. Like, in some ways, it's a good service. In some ways, like, you'll be able to rent games, which I think is probably a good idea. Like, renting games would be now a big thing again. But again, how current technology is and how current internet is with majority of countries, it's not really a good service to sort of have. Or bring out at this current moment. Like, maybe in another 10, 15 years, I think this would have been... Or it would be probably... It'd be the perfect time for it to be perfect. But at this current moment, with current politics in a lot of countries, especially mine, it's not really a viable system to buy. But look, but they're the Muggle of the Week this week because they did do a lot of promises that they really didn't fulfill on, especially with countries like America, where again, like they have really like 10 times better internet than what we do. Actually, I wouldn't say 10 times, 200 times better internet than what we do. And again, they're still struggling to play at 4K at 60 frames a second. Not even 1080 at 60 frames a second, and that's not a good thing. That's pretty fucking bad. Like, at least 1080 would be, like, at least a good alternative, but it's like, a lot of people are getting 720 at 60 frames per second, but, like, probably just barely cap 30 for 1080. And that's not good, especially with current day, consoles that do a much better job at that, especially, like, hell, even though the Xbox was kind of a failure this year, at least, like, a lot of games that they've brought out in the last while have been able to play at, 60 frames a second, 1080p. but even their Xbox One X, like at least that can play a 4K. And the same as like the PlayStation Pro. So it's very much it's very much got its own problems, but I guess we'll do it with that. But I did sort of cover this. No cancelling Stadia. Cancelling Stadia Pro won't take away your discounted games. Yeah, because apparently, if you a lot of questions were because if you are a part of the Pro system, you do get games at a discounted price. Apparently, some people were worried at the fact that, by the sounds of things, before the system came out, that it was going to be if you away from the Pro system that you'll lose the game. And personally, like when they said no, that's not the case, which I presume so, because that wouldn't be okay. You paid for the service originally, you got the discounted price on that video game, you should be allowed to keep. That's just plain and simple. And I completely understand a lot of people's concern on that factor. But yeah, we'll move on from that. That's that's the Stadia stuff out of the way, and that's pretty much why they're our Muggle of the Week. They've just had nothing but mainly bad luck. But again, you know, Google really did make a lot of promises that they really couldn't uphold, and they really couldn't fulfill, really. So I'm hoping maybe next time they might be able to try and do something a bit better. I don't know if this is I kind of get it because this is a streaming service. I don't know whether they're going to have to bring out a new Stadia platform. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know the in-depth workings of how the Stadia works, but from all I know, it's a streaming service, so they mightn't. So I don't think they'll probably make a Stadia 2 or anything like that. I think it'll probably just be kept to just the Stadia and just stay that way, I suppose. That's how I see it, but I'm not 100% sure. I guess I'll have to find out when we get. Next news that came out this week was that apparently we're supposed to be getting another Saints Row game revealed in 2020. They did sort of talk about this, that it was very much sort of a rumor, but now it's kind of been sort of hinted at the fact that we are going to be getting a new one, which I'm kind of looking forward to. Like, we haven't had a Saints Row game, like a proper decent Saints Row game, in a long time. Like the last one was okay, like it was alright. I didn't mind it. People trashed 3, but I thought 3 was actually a pretty solid title. I had a lot of fun with Saints Row 3. When it comes, and obviously Saints Row 2 will always be my favourite out of any of them. Saints Row 2 pinnacle of the Saints Row franchise, but we'll see where this goes from here on out. I don't know. I kind of go they're still going to do the quirky, funny sort of storylines, but personally I'd like them to go back to the sort of gangster sort of stuff, because that was what they did really well in 2, and even 3 did it pretty well as well. So I'd like them to go back to that format and see what they can do. Like, again, I still want the quirkiness, I still want the raunchy humor and everything like that. I think that really worked for the later games, and I hope they do decide to keep that going and keep that sort of storytelling flowing. But again, I would like them to go back to random gangster stuff. I reckon that would. Hell, they could even do, because things that they've been doing a lot of sci-fi and futuristic stuff as well. They could also just do a Saints Row game, in the like further on in the future, just make it like a futuristic gangster sort of mafia game. I reckon that would probably be pretty funny. Like some of the fucking firearms and stuff you could probably bring into it and everything. I think it'll be probably. Another thing that I saw today, I thought we might as well quickly go over, because I think a lot of people probably would like to know when some new games are going to be released. So I'll put the article chat or Twitch chat for everybody in the Twitch that's watching. Sorry, I don't have the YouTube chat up, so I might be able to bring it up. Give me 1 second. I'll bring it up. Put it up in the chat for the YouTube as well. Go. So people can sort of just read along, and see quickly. Just go over what's coming out in the next sort of year. I'll skip over a lot of the games that are sort of going to be spin-off titles and stuff like that, because a lot of people, only real diehard fans, are really going to be sort of onto that. So I might just go over sort of quickly what the main ones that are going to be sort of coming out for the franchise. And I'll probably skip the DLC as well. So we got Yakuza 5 on PS4. Darkside Genesis comes out on the 14th of February, and yeah, Yakuza 5 and Ori and the Will of Wisps comes out February 11th. Marvel's Iron Man comes out on February 28th. That's the VR version. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go. I guess it could be alright. I'm not 100% sure, because we haven't really seen much gameplay of it, and considering the fact that every time there's been an Iron Man game, they haven't been really shot. Also that day, One Punch Man Hero Nobody Knows comes out that day too. That might be alright. I'm a pretty big fan of the shows. I haven't even finished watching. March 3rd, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm hoping and praying to Christ that does does justice to the original game. That'll be definitely one that I'll be picking up at some point next year. I'm not sure 100% sure, because I'm pretty sure that they were going to be releasing it on PC as well, but I guess we'll find out another day. And Xbox, find out another date, I suppose. Animal Crossing New Horizons. Oh yeah, sorry. Missed that. Neo 2 comes out on March 13th. That'll be another game I'll be picking up and playing. March 20th, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Doom 64, and Doom Eternal come out that day. I'm very much looking forward to Doom Eternal. I think that's going to be a very brilliant game, and I hope that it does really well. March 24th, Bleeding Edge. Another date in March, Half-Life Alyx is supposed to be coming out at that time, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Now, I know people are a bit divided on Half-Life Alyx, but I guess we'll find out when it comes out, see if it's any good or not. Okay, we're going to April. Cyberpunk 2077 comes out in April 16th. That will probably be definitely a Game of the Year contender already. Unless it just ends up being absolute dog shit, which I highly doubt. CD Projekt Red's doing it. April 24th, Trials of Mania. And another time in April, Minecraft Dungeons are coming out, which I've seen a little bit of, but I'm not really that hugely big on Minecraft, so it's not really appealing to me. Going to May 15th, Marvel's Avengers. May 29th, The Last of Us 2. I will be picking it up. And sometime also in May, we've got Wasteland 3 as well. And then we've got another list of games that are confirmed for 2020. We've got 12 Minutes, Crossfire X, Deadly Premonition 2, Destroy All Humans Remaster, Digimon Survive, which is the first Digimon game in a while that we've gotten. Disintegration, Dragon Ball Z Carrot. Okay. Dying Light 2, Empire of Sin, Evil Genius 2, World Domination, Gods of Monsters, Griftlands, Halo Infinite, Kerbal Space Program 2, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, Little Nightmares 2, Microsoft Flight Simulator. What? That's pretty... Okay. Microsoft Dungeons, No More Heroes 3, that's coming to Switch. No Straight Roads, Oddworld Soulstorm, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, Outriders, which doesn't look half bad. Predator Hunting Grounds, which I personally think is going to be a flop when it comes out, but I guess we'll find out when it does. Psychonauts 2, Roller Champions, Rune Factor 5, Skull and Bones, Spirit Farah, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, System Shock Remake, Tales of Arise, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Quarantine, that's coming back apparently. Twin Mirror, Wasteland 3, Watch Dogs Legion, Werewolf, The Apocalypse, Earthbound, and Zombie Army 4 Dead War. I don't know, they keep making a lot of these Zombie Army games. Yeah, that's sort of the video games that are sort of coming out, or sort of the rough cliff notes of the video games that are coming out next year. Thought I'd quickly go over it now that we're sort of getting into the end of the year. Might as well go do a quick recap of what's coming out next year. Obviously, there will be some games that will be announced between now and probably February. Usually, February is your cutoff point of games that are going to be coming out that the same year. And sometimes at E3, we do get some games that, like AAA games that are announced at E3 that are coming out towards the end of the year. So I guess we can normally get our announcement for Call of Duty beforehand. Get our announcement for Call of Duty sort of before E3. And then when E3 rocks around, that's when we get our gameplay trailers and stuff like that. But going forth, I don't know what else to see, what else to expect for next year. But we've got a pretty good, solid lineup of games for next year that I'll be very much looking forward to playing, especially Cyberpunk. I think Cyberpunk's probably the main one I'm probably looking forward to playing. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm going to need to upgrade my rig or not, but I guess we'll have to find out next year, I suppose. But yes, it was the second last article for the week. The specs are out for PS5 and the Xbox Scarlett. Now, going over the specs, see, at the moment, what I can see here is that the PlayStation 5 is going to be, by the sounds of things, a lot more, probably more superior at this point. Like there are some changes here and there that outweigh both consoles, but primarily the PlayStation 5 is probably going to be the most graphic intensive console, which they usually are. When it comes to the Xbox Scarlett, like they're using a really sort of shitty GPU style. I don't know whether that's going to probably work well in their favor. Both systems are using like SSDs. PlayStation 5 hasn't announced theirs, but Xbox is going to be a 1 terabyte SSD. We don't know specifically what SSDs they're using though, which is going to be an interesting topic and an interesting conversation to have when it gets closer towards the announcement. Well, when they post the announcement of consoles, which will be announced sometime next year. They say that they're going to be released next year, which I don't see happening. I think they're going to announce them next year, but I don't think they're going to like release them next year. If they release them next year, it won't be till right at the end of next year or the beginning of personally, because usually Xbox wants to always just get their fucking foot right in there before PlayStation does. I think Xbox will probably announce and say, "Oh, we're bringing out our console at the end of the year," and PlayStation will probably do what they did this current gen, and announce theirs probably towards near E3 or after E3 or around E3 or at E3. And they'll turn around and say, "Oh, we'll probably bring ours out the following year." But finding out what's going to be happening with the two consoles, I'm not sure. But I guess we'll see where it all happens, especially when it comes to the release of the announcement of the consoles. Because when the consoles get announced, they do bring out the proper 100% specs of everything. See, right now we've got like a couple of unknown stuff that we don't know yet. Obviously, what it looks like and stuff like that, and again, what specific SSD drives they're using. Now, the other thing too that I am a little irritated with is that the Xbox Scarlett doesn't have 4K Blu-ray when it should, because for the simple fact that well, their Xbox Xbox One X does have fucking a 4K Blu-ray player. I don't see why they don't add one into the Scarlett. I don't. It seems to be like they're trying to just bring this out, and then they go, oh, but we've got another console coming out in a couple of months' time that's going to have the 4K drive, or they're just going to turn around and go, oh, but we've got this regular Scarlett, and we also have the beefier version, and they'll just announce both of them at the same time. That's probably my thought process on that. I don't know whether it's going to be... Personally, from just seeing the stats alone for what console's better, already the PlayStation 5 is looking far more superior than the Xbox Scarlett, and that's not a good thing. And for Xbox, it's good to have these competitors, but it's sad to see that Xbox is really sort of starting to go down the drain. It's just it's not, they're not really doing anything to sort of compete with PlayStation right now, like especially in this current generation. But like you look at this, like clearly the PlayStation 5 has 10 times better specs that we can see right now than what the Xbox Scarlett has, but they're guaranteeing 120 frames per second. I doubt it. I severely doubt the fact that 120 frames a second is something you're actually going to be getting. But I guess whatever's floats your boat there, Xbox, I suppose. But we'll move on to the last article. Sorry, this is a quick week this week. I've got sort of a lot going. I'm sort of a bit busy today, so I didn't really have a lot of time to sort of have a decently long podcast this week. But there hasn't really been a lot of news this week. There's just sort of been this sort of the main things coming out. Like, I'll get into some of the other little stuff after this. The last thing that's kind of worth talking about is Call of Duty Modern Warfare's first free content season dated, and so it's supposed to be all starting on the 3rd of December. We don't know 100%. Oh no, we do. Okay, I didn't see this. Sorry, poor journalism on my part. All right, so what do we got? So we got multiplayer maps, a new ground war map that looks like the one map from, or part of the map from Blackout. New 2v2 gunfight maps, which has surprisingly been a very, very popular mode. New multiplayer modes, Reinforce, Gunfight, OSP, and Infected. New special operator experiences. So we got some DLC on that front, and new weapons as well to go on top of that. So that's season 1's stuff. So yeah, it's good to see that also too. This is all free. This season, like, I'm not sure if the following seasons are going to be paid, which, knowing Activision, it's going to be paid. But if it's free, if every season from here on out and all DLC that ever comes out is free, I'm happy. Again, companies need to start doing more of this, especially to keep players and players playing your video game, and as well as to earn respect, and as well as to top off. And to also entice more people to come and purchase your game as well. Look, honestly, it's a small step forward from Activision for them to actually do this, because they could have just simply turned around and gone, nah, you gotta have to still pay the $50 to $60 fucking season pass. It's like, no. So, like, the only time I've ever bought season passes was for the Treyarch games, and that was only for the simple fact for zombie maps, and So, yes, that's sort of everything that's sort of been sort of announced really this week. There hasn't really been a lot announced this week. Um, when it comes to some things though, we've from what I've seen so far, when it comes to going back some of the stuff, especially when it comes to the Stadia and the Xbox and PlayStation, that like one thing I will say about Microsoft is that Microsoft with their next gen console needs to come out big and then come out fucking because the Xbox One was a commercial failure. It just was. Like they stopped selling them in Japan after the first year because they were just not profitable because no one wanted one. And like the good thing is that like I know that they've recently bought out all these companies. A lot of people were saying, "Oh well, yeah, I'll be good. Finally, we'll get some exclusive games on the Xbox One." No, I personally think that it's going to be. I think they're just showing that this is more to set up and help out the Xbox One to probably more so it'll entice more people to sit there and go, oh, okay, all these companies are now going to be only making for Xbox. Another thing I would probably suggest is that if you're going to make a brand new IP, I highly suggest you probably only keep it on the because at the moment with your system like your service you got now with the Xbox One, any new game that comes out in the Xbox One exclusively will also come out on PC. Now, if you're going to do that for the new Xbox as well, you will probably lose a bit of your market because there are some PC players that still will buy, like myself, that will still buy an Xbox if there was exclusive games on it. But if I don't need to buy an Xbox and you come out and say we're still using the same service for E3, I'll be happy. Don't get me wrong. I'll be ecstatic. But you know, but that also means on your end, I'm not going to buy an Xbox. I'll just use that 500, 600, hell, if they go that high, $700 for a brand new console. And I'll just use it to upgrade. So I'm ready and rearing to go for the new generation of video games. So that's where I'm trying to get at. It's Xbox is in a bit of a bind right now, and they need to sort of try and get themselves back afloat. But don't get me wrong, I think the Xbox will still sell reasonably well. Like Xbox One still sold reasonably, but nowhere near as much as PlayStation did. Because back when the Xbox was announced, they had the DRM policy like that. A lot of diehard Xbox fans just went fuck you and to PlayStation. And still most of these people today will refuse to buy an Xbox One on that concept, even though they're reversed. And I don't blame them. I genuinely don't. Now, like I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, we're probably it'd be good if we they just brought out a discless version of console." I disagree in this current at this current time. Again, maybe in another 5-10 years, sure. I could see. But now, no. I personally don't see a need go out and do that right now. Especially again, as I said, a lot of countries don't have internet support that like a lot of other big first world countries. Like say for us, we're very backwards. But you look at someone like America. America's like fucking leaps bounds ahead, and England's just as big too. Japan is just fucking skyrocketed when it comes to their internet service. So when it comes down to it, I think games on disc are still profitable, and they are profitable for, you know, they are still profitable. They probably will always be profitable. But till then, it's you're still gonna have the same option to buy the games online. That's never gonna change. So, also too, just recapping on Stadia as well. The Stadia, like they've had a pretty shit time starting out. Hopefully, they will come back. Like maybe, like again, look, if you know the hardware is still a thing that they can still upgrade in some shape or form, they may. And it might be better the second time round, but because it's primarily a streaming service, I don't see any increase or update or anything. Upgraded version, I just don't. But that's my sort of closing thoughts on this week's news. Next week again, depending on the days. Like again, the problem is that me and Vesp have to organise a proper day and a proper time to do the stream. At the moment, like we can't do night times no more. Specifically, my work moment and come into work at night time, and I won't be able to. So we've got to have to sort of still work it out. So at the moment, we're sort of just, I'm just sort of doing the podcast when we can. So like at the moment, like Vesp said, like he's busy today and he couldn't jump on today. Fine. Because again, like it was sort of just later on, like, yeah, I'm gonna start this podcast in like an hour. So if you can jump on, you can jump on. So but leaving it at that, we still are working on another proper time and another proper date. Sorry again for some people that do watch the VODs, because I know there is quite a few who actually do watch them. You might have to bear with us for a little while. But yeah, so thank you so much for that. And also too, I want to thank some of the people who've been watching my my Twitch stream as well, because I've been streaming some No Man's Sky. It's been wonderful to see some of the support I've been getting from a lot of people. So thank you to all the new followers that I've been getting. Like I think it's 10-15 followers in the last, not a lot, but it's still a pretty decent support, especially for a small channel like mine. So thank you very much. Any support is greatly appreciated. Yes, I hope everybody has a wonderful, awesome week. I'll catch you all next week. Take it easy.